Okay, we're now at Hezber 1:4. We're in Gemara Brachot, Daf Yud Gimel. The Mishnah said if a person was reading from the Torah and he had in mind to, he had kavanah in his heart, he's yotze, he fulfills the mitzvah of Shema. And what we're going to try to deal with is, what does im kivein libo mean? And this is a Shas topic. The Shas topic means this idea is throughout all of Gemara, whether or not mitzvos require kavanah in order to fulfill them properly. Can you just do a mitzvah, or do you have to have an awareness that you're doing the mitzvah and have certain kavanas, certain thoughts when you're fulfilling it? So this mitzvah, this idea is brought up over here in this parak, third parak of Brachot. Shma mina. From here we can learn, from the Mishnah we can learn, mitzvah tzrichas kavana. Mitzvahs need kavana. Good. Seems straightforward. But now the Gemara gives us the other side of the coin about the people who hold that mitzvot do not require kavana. And the Gemara says, ma im kivin libo. When the Mishnah says im kivin libo, it doesn't necessarily mean that he had kavana. Likrot, it means that he was reading, that he had in mind that he was reading, just straight out reading the text. So the Gemara says, likrot, you mean just reading? V'hakakare. The Mishnah already uses the words kore, that he's reading. So I don't need the words of im kivin libo to tell me that he was just reading. It already says haya kore, he was reading. So the Gemara, is like talking to itself, right? It's sort of like a reflexive kind of question, and it says, you know what it means? Im kivin libo. It means that he was checking, that he had kavanah, that he was checking for mistakes as he was reading the scroll. Now let's look at Rashi. Rashi is going to fill us in on a lot of this stuff. So let's look at some Rashis. Rashi, Shma mina mitzvot tzrichas kavanah, shehei mischavin l'shem mitzvot. That a person should have kavanah in order to l'shem mitzvah, to fulfill the mitzvah. That's what Rashi is assuming that the Gemara is talking about, that you have to have some sort of awareness. If that's the case, v'kasheh l'Rabba, then it's difficulty on Rabbah. The Amar Masechtet Rosh Hashanah, because Rabbah says in Masechtes Rosh Hashanah, hatakeya l'shir, that if a person blows the shofar for a song, he happens to be blowing the shofar for the music part, and it happens to be similar to the Tekiya and Shvarim and Trua, and he has no intent, right, that he's fulfilling the mitzvah of Tekiyat shofar, he's just blowing the shofar, Yotza. The Gemara says is Yotza. So this would strike against Rabbah, who says that you can blow the shofar without having a mind to fulfill the mitzvah, and you're still Yotza. Okay, so I told you before, this is a Shas topic and a machloket, whether or not positive mitzvot, mitzvah aseh, require kavana. Kivan likrot, Rashi says on the words, and he had a mind to read, aval it says yedei mitzvah, but when he was reading it, it wasn't to fulfill the mitzvah. Lo be'inyan shei mischavin ela likrot b'torah ba'alma. He was just reading the Torah for the sake of reading the words, and not necessarily to fulfill the mitzvah. And finally, I want to do the last Rashi here. B'korei lahagia, he was reading it to check. Et hasefer, he was looking to check the book. Im yeshbo te'ut, if there were mistakes. Da'afilu likra nami lo mischavin. And even so, he was reading not to have kavana. So it could be that the Mishnah, it's not very clear whether or not from the Mishnah one requires for the mitzvah of Shema that it needs kavana. We'll look at the Rambam, and we'll see what the Rambam has to say about this, and we'll also look at the Shulchan Aruch. But it's clear from the Gemara that the Mishnah isn't clear, that when it talks about the person who's reading from the Torah and having kavana, it doesn't necessarily mean that he was doing it for the sake of the mitzvah, but he had kavana, that he was just checking for mistakes. So again, we're left with an open-ended discussion about if mitzvot tzrichat kavana, if mitzvot require kavana.